Hey guys, how's it going? So, Kiss of Frost just came around, the Advent. It's been about a year since it last came out, and it was overall probably the best of the three Advents. This one was pretty fair, I think, overall. The grass one was the next best, and then the fire one was the absolute worst, right? But let's talk about kind of how this works, right? So first of all, these are the only sets that you can get for mod gems, and last time we had speed set, this time we don't, so that's a bit of a shame, really. You want to make sure that you also get all the dirt connections, so you get one of them from these, and the rest you buy from the shop, right here. Keep in mind, if you are not able to do the Epic Hell difficulty or the Hell difficulty, you're still able to buy all of these, but if you're not able to do Epic Hell, you're not going to have the fangs to be able to buy other stuff, so you have to buy all the fangs in the shop to buy the dirt connections to then get the last copy from the reputation. Also, these don't count towards the final reward, so yeah, you don't have to clear them at all. If you're able to clear the hard difficulty, you can farm that enough to be able to buy out everything you want in the shop. So I'd get most of this stuff, right? Like, I'd buy the Dark Connections, Frosty Ice Connection, Bookmarks, Artifact Charm, Molagora, those ones are pretty obvious, and then probably get most of the gems that matter. Even if you buy some gems that don't really matter, you can always extract them for the material, possibly too, if you have to overfarm the event. I'm also going to be grabbing these, and yeah, that's the white snake fangs that you can use to buy the connection bookmarks. So anyways, let's talk about kind of what I would recommend for this. So hard difficulty is pretty easy for most people, unless you're new to the game. Hell difficulty is where you're going to be farming hard, but Epic Hell is the hardest one. And so this right here is the three teams I decided to use. So you can actually use a ton of different units, and I have a bunch of example teams that I'm going to show in just a second, but what matters most is an Epic Hell. She has some very special mechanics that you have to deal with: battle mana and protection mana. So battle mana is pretty much in the first phase, you have to hit her, I believe, 5 times while she has no minions. So you have to kill the minions and then AoE 5 times after the minions are already dead. So Belian does a bunch of AoE, Vivian can do a bunch of AoE, Landy does a little bit of AoE, so that's how I kind of structured that team, right? Once you've done that, she'll lose the attack buff that affects phase 2. So that's really important, because otherwise she'll instantly one-shot anybody that she hits because she ignores defense. So that's pretty self-explanatory and isn't actually that bad. The second phase is actually really hard overall. So you have to deal with protection mana for this one. So she's going to have this Yeti with her, and you have to hit the Yeti 6 times with single attacks. And then it gets rid of the protection mana so that in the third phase she isn't super tanky. So this one is overall just a really difficult one. The Yeti will often only hit these two, right? It's not really going to attack the front unit all that much. It's mainly going to hit them. It also normally ignores type disadvantage or evasion, so even like Violet's going to get hit all the time, and it just stuns you over and over, while the boss is mainly going to spam hit the front person. So ideally what you would want to do is have like maybe Violet and Senya right here so that the Yeti is constantly attacking them, and then in turn being counterattacked, so it adds the stacks. But I decided, you know, I'm not going to full auto this entire thing. I'm going to have a little bit of manual play at the same time. So this team is not at all like the most optimal, but it works just fine. And what I do is I just click on the Yeti, have it go, and then once it's been hit, 6 times, then I just go for the boss and take her out. And then there's this final phase. So the final phase is just one-shot them, pretty much. So the souls actually stack from the first and second phases, and in the final one it puts on a bunch of debuffs and does a ton of damage, and you can't AoE it, and if you don't crit it, then it cleanses all its debuffs. A real pain in the butt, really. So instead, I just Soulburn Flan S3 into S2 push Sigrid. This could be really anything, it just needs to be a blue unit, but I decided to use her S2 to push Sigrid, and then Sigrid just instantly kills the boss with S2 into S3 Soulburn. It's really simple and fast. Sure, this isn't all manual, but you only have to do, or this isn't all auto, but you only have to do this 5 times, so I figure, you know, why not, right? So let me show off some other example teams, though, that you might consider using. So this is a team right here that I saw some people use for Epic Hell, right? You can also use this. Yuna is really a great one for doing the AoEs as well. Here's another team. just thought I would show some other examples of teams so that you know that you don't have to use the same exact stuff. A lot of people were saying like, what do I use instead of Belian? You could use something like Yuna. You can use characters like Solitaria. They used Ran and Ida as well. Sylvan Sage Vivian as well. The second phase, you can use stuff like Rowana too, because they do lots of dual attacks. They use Shu on the second one. I actually used Ram on the third one. I've seen Ram used on some of the teams as well. They used Arbiter, Vildred, Spectre, Team, Vivian. That's a bit of an odd one, but it worked. They used Celine and Violet for the third one. That's an interesting one too. Baiken definitely works for it as well. She can work in the third phase to one-shot too. I've heard Mort is pretty good for the second one because he'll counter the Yeti constantly if you want to go for a more auto team. Yeah, Mercenary Helga is also a pretty solid unit for this kind of stuff. Oh, let me also note, make sure that your pet is with the side story currency one, because this counts as a side story, and so it'll give you the extra drop currency so that you're being a little bit more efficient. So hopefully you use that. Here's another example. Yeah, Hua Young, fire unit to blue, no problem. It's Hua Young. She's still a god, right? She's insanely good, so they use it there. So these are all just example teams. Lionheart Sirmia, you can use Strays as well for AoEs in the first phase. But overall, I would say there's a good amount of variety. This is the kind of content that you can only really do when you're more of an endgame player, of course, and it's not easy when you don't have many units and when you don't have much gear. But hopefully most people are going to at least be able to clear the lowest difficulty to get all the rewards, because there is some pretty good stuff from this, right? And so after all these example teams, I just want to show you guys a run of my actual team though. Alright, so boss starts with this. I can auto a good amount of this, right? So just gonna have this kind of stuff run here. Landy softens them up a bit into Belion's attack. So these AoEs don't count towards removing this, keep in mind. You have to kill all of the ads here, and then you have to AoE her 5 times. So Vivian kills all of them right here, right? But then this second AoE is actually going to count as one of the stacks. So that's 1 AoE, this is 2. So only 2 so far, but that's fine. So right here is where the boss phases as well. That's 3. See if Belian can get a couple. Doesn't really matter if she does or not. Yep, so the boss is going to resummon this stuff, but that's fine. That's not really too much of an issue. Sure, you could probably make this fight a little bit faster and easier, but it's not really that big of a deal. All that really matters is that you win. So I don't really care too much. So we're almost done with this phase. We just have to AoE her one more time and then get her to that. So this is going to go pretty cleanly. But yeah, we saw before you can use so many characters for this. Characters like Yuna, you could even use Fire Charlotte or Summer Break Charlotte. You just need to have a bunch of AoE and good enough damage to try and take her out. But there's lots of possible options. You don't have to use somebody like Belian, right? You don't have to be using an ML5 for really any of the phases at all. Most of them are RGB units. Just make sure that you have the synergy of elements for some of the phases. So now she goes into the second phase. So right here, I'm just going to click on the Yeti right there. Sure, it's not auto, right? But I just have to hit the Yeti 6 times. So what matters for this phase also is that you have buffs on. When you don't have buffs on, if she attacks, she goes into the secondary hit, doing a bunch of extra damage, putting debuffs on. It really sucks, right? So this is something that's really annoying also, is the Yeti's going to spam stun your units. It rarely hits the front person. But the reason why I have Senya in front and not somewhere else is my Dian was taking way too much damage and getting pelted when I had her in the front. So instead I'm just doing this. So that's 2 hits on the Yeti, 4 more, and she's going to lose this thing. So then the third phase, she's going to die really easily, right? So this is a pretty slow team. You really could use a lot of different teams, probably way faster ones as well. But this is the team I came up with. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of what I figured. So this is kind of just how I was running it. I use the same team for Epic Hell that I do in regular Hell. But in regular Hell, I can actually completely auto it. I don't have to click on anything, and it just completely works fine. So it's actually a pretty nice team, I would say, all in all. Okay, so we removed that, removed those buffs. So now we can just target the boss, and now we just wait. It's gonna take a little bit, but it's not too bad, I think. Yeah, the boss is just gonna keep hitting Senya. Senya just keeps countering. She doesn't do a ton of damage, but she's also never gonna die. Alencia defense breaks are obviously great because they'll really speed it up. I think that if you want to speed up this entire fight, you would maybe want somebody like possibly Alencia in the front or something like that, so that she's the one getting hit, and have Senya on the side so that the Yetis hit Senya or Violet as well. The problem is the Yeti can keep just stunning characters like Senya and Violet. It's actually really frustrating. Violet might have 100% dodge against most ice units, but not the Yeti at all. So I believe when the boss gets down to here, she is going to phase, so we're still a little bit ways away. But overall, look how safe the team is. Doesn't even get close to losing or anything. Even though it takes a long time, you only have to kill this thing 5 times on Epic Hell. And on regular Hell difficulty, you don't have to attack the Yeti at all, so it goes a lot quicker. The boss does have 100 effect resist, so my Alencia only has a 50% effectiveness, so she's going to miss a lot of defense breaks. But you can defense break the boss in the second and third phase, which makes it way easier if you're actually able to. So we're almost there. 5% more of her health bar, and we're going to un-auto it once we get there so we can just take the boss out. So one thing to note about this final phase is I actually overkill the boss by a lot. Like, I hard overkill the boss by so much damage. I don't even need Flan's crit damage buff to kill this thing. So, ideally, this is what I go for. Let's hope that we actually defense break. Oh, thank God. You wouldn't believe how many times I've gotten 15%ed. But honestly, don't even need Amelia here, but it just makes things easier, and look at how much damage we do. We overkill this by so much overall. So this is how much damage Sigrid does, and then that's even before her S3, and my Sigrid's missing a lot of Molas. She's not even 6-star. So kills the boss, and pretty simple run. You only have to do this 5 times, so nice and easy overall, I would say. Now let me show the units that I used for this entire thing. So I pretty much just didn't change the builds for almost any of the characters, really. But I did have to change a few things around. So this is my Diane. I just use her for PvP, right, for the second phase. This is my Amelia that I use in the third phase. They're both just built PvP. This is my Alencia that's also PvP that I just normally use, and so is my Senya as well. I didn't really want to have to change too much gear around. It's kind of a pain usually. So I actually didn't have to ungear a single PvP unit to do all this PvE content, which was awesome. Here's my Landy for the first phase as well. My Bruiser Landy, and here's just my injury Belian that I just have, right? Now if we move to some of the other units, let me find them. Who else did I use? Oh yeah, so this is my Flan. I just put some gear on her so that she would have some speed and be able to do something. My Sigrid actually has 99% crit chance, so I put this on before I had the water gun shooter artifact, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. On the first phase, I just threw this gear on Vivian so that she would do a bunch of damage. That's all that really matters. She would be faster than the other units and hit really hard. Then all the way down to this, let's see. Oh yeah, here's my Sigrid. So she's missing a star, she's missing 2 Molas here, 2 Molas there, 27 Daydream Joker. I put her on Rage Set, Pen Set, no imprints or anything. As you can see, she has a lot of damage. And she overkills the boss by a lot, so you actually really don't need this much damage. You could probably get rid of the Pen Set and lower her damage, and she would still be able to one-shot the boss as long as you defense broke it. So, all in all, this is kind of just how Advent goes. I would say that if you're really new, don't beat yourself up over it. Just try to do the first difficulty if you can. If you can't, well, it's content that's kind of made for later game players anyway, so don't feel too bad, but really try to do it if you can. It has some pretty good rewards. Now, one thing that a lot of people ask is like, okay, I bought everything from the shop, should I keep farming it? Well, You totally can if you want, but keep in mind these are the only mod gems it drops, so if you don't care about these, then it's not really worth it. No speed set or anything for a lot of people could be a deal breaker. It does have better rates, I believe, of getting the ones that you want than if you were doing expos. So a lot of whales I know like to farm this stuff to get the ones that they want, but only if there's actually a set you're looking for. So anyways, that's my overall guide for the Kiss of Frost Advent side story. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like to support the channel, or you know, subscribe. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope this helped, and I hope to see you guys next time.